There's this thing that happens. You get good at your job, you show up on time, you hit deadlines, you solve problems quietly. Your manager starts trusting you, your coworkers start depending on you, and you think this is progress. It isn't. What you've actually done is build a trap. This trap costs years, not money, years.
To be clear, being good at your job matters. The mistake is thinking it's the whole strategy. This isn't true in every job, but it's true in most organizations. Here's how it works. When you're good at your job, you become valuable in a very specific way. You become the person who gets things done, the person who doesn't need to be managed, the person who makes everyone else's life easier. And that sounds like a good thing, but here's what it actually means. It means you become expensive to move. They'll pay to keep you. They won't pay the pain to replace you. Because if your manager promotes you, they have to replace you. And replacing someone who's quietly competent is hard. It creates risk. It creates gaps. It creates more work for them. Managers don't avoid promoting you because they're cruel. They avoid it because the replacement process is genuinely painful. And if the new person doesn't work out, it reflects badly on them. So keeping you where you are is the safer choice. From your side, this feels confusing. You're doing exactly what they asked. You're delivering results. You're making their life easier. And somehow that's the problem. So what happens instead is this. They keep you where you are. They give you more responsibility. They give you harder problems. They tell you you're doing a great job, but they don't promote you. They don't move you up. They just make your current job bigger. You become the person who owns the monthly report. The system breaks, people pay you, you fix it. Then you train the new hire. And now you're also the trainer. Suddenly, your job is two jobs. And none of it is promotion. Or you become the person who handles the difficult client, the one no one else wants to deal with. They give you the messy accounts because you don't complain. And now you're the expert on messy accounts, which means more messy accounts. Here's the part nobody warned you about. When you're really good at your job, you stop learning. Not because you're lazy, but because you've optimized. You know the systems. You know the shortcuts. You know how to get things done without thinking too hard. And that efficiency feels like mastery, but it's not. It's repetition. You get rewarded for speed, not for range. And repetition doesn't grow your skill set. It just makes you faster at the same things, which means a year from now, you'll be better at the job you already have, but you won't be ready for the job above you. The skills that make you good at your current job are execution skills, delivery, reliability, process mastery. The skills required one level up are different. Strategy, delegation, managing ambiguity, and companies don't train you for that. They assume you'll figure it out once you're promoted, but they won't promote you until you already demonstrated. This shows up in performance reviews. You get marked as exceeds expectations. You get praised for reliability, but the feedback never mentions readiness for the next role because no one's evaluating you for that. And when a spot opens up, they won't pick you. Not ready on paper. Not ready in the story the organization tells about you. They're picking for the next role's risks, not the current role's performance, because you spend all your time being good at the wrong thing. This is the quiet part, the part people don't talk about. Being excellent at your current role can actually block your growth because it keeps you in your current role. And the longer you stay, the harder it gets to leave, because now you're the person who knows everything. You're the institutional knowledge. You're the one everyone asks when something breaks. And that feels important. It feels like job security, but it's not security. It's inertia. Here's what makes it worse. When you're too good at your job, people start to see you as that job. They can't imagine you doing anything else. Organizations label people quickly, not formally, not in writing, but in the way people talk about you in meetings you're not in. You become the Excel person, or the operations person, or the person who handles escalations. And once that label sticks, it becomes the only thing people remember about you. Being the go-to person feels like recognition, and at first it is. But go-to eventually becomes can't do anything else. The longer you stay in the role, the more evidence there is for the label. And organizations treat tenure as confirmation, not as something that might need to change. You're not a person with potential.
You're the person who handles that specific thing. And once people see you that way, it's very hard to change their minds. This is why people leave companies to grow, not always because the company is bad, but because the company has
already decided who you are. And sometimes the only way to become someone new is to go somewhere where no one knows you yet. Now, here's the part that feels unfair. You did everything right. You worked hard, you were dependable, you didn't complain. And somehow, that's the problem. So why does it feel like you're doing everything right and
still not moving? Because you were easy to manage. You didn't create urgency. You didn't make anyone worry that you might leave. And I'm not saying you should be difficult, but being low maintenance makes you easy to overlook. Here's the reality. Your manager sees your work, but your manager's manager does not. And the person 2 levels up definitely does not. And those are the people who make decisions about your career. Promotion decisions don't happen in performance reviews. They happen in succession planning meetings and skip-level conversations and hallway discussions about who's ready. And in those rooms, the people making decisions are working from narrative, not data. They're not looking at your task completion rate. They're asking who comes to mind when they think about the next role. Performance data tells them you're good. Narrative tells them you're ready. And if no one's telling your story, you don't have a narrative. The other thing that happens is this. Silence gets misread as satisfaction. If you're not talking about what you want, leadership assumes you're happy where you are. And if they think you're happy, there's no reason to move you. So if your head's down, doing great work, being the reliable one, you're playing a game no one told you has different rules at the top. The people who do get promoted are often not the best at the job. They're the ones who made themselves visible. They're the ones who talked about their work. They're the ones who built relationships outside their team. They didn't just do good work. They made sure people knew they were doing good work. And that's not about bragging, it's about context. The people who move up usually do something most people avoid. They ask for things. They talk about what they want. They make it clear they're not going to stay in the same spot forever. Not drama, not being difficult, just clarity that they're growing with or without this role. And that makes leadership think about them differently. It makes them a priority, because now there's a clock. Now there's a risk of losing them. And that sounds cynical, but it's just how organizations work. Individuals react to what's in front of them. And if you're quietly excellent in the background, you're not in front of them. So what does this signify? What tends to work is this. Being proficient at your profession is necessary, but it's not sufficient. The individuals who move forward are also proficient at talking about their profession. They're proficient at making their goals known. They're proficient at building visibility, and they're willing to become less proficient at their current profession so they can start learning the next one. Not by slacking, by reallocating, because staying excellent at something that doesn't grow you is just a slower way to get stuck. This is the part that takes time to learn. Competence is not a strategy. It's a baseline. The strategy is what you do after you're competent. Competence gets you in the room. It gets you respect. It gets you stability. But it doesn't get you movement. And most individuals never think about that. They just keep getting better at what they're already doing. And they wonder why nothing changes. The pitfall isn't that you're subpar at your profession. The pitfall is that you're too proficient at a profession that doesn't lead anywhere. This is what quietly goes wrong. You optimize for the wrong thing. You optimize for being proficient at the profession you have instead of being ready for the profession you want. And by the time you realize it, you spent years becoming incredible at something that doesn't move you forward. Years you can't get back. Not because you failed, but because you succeeded at the wrong level. The comfort of being proficient at something is real.
The recognition feels rewarding. The stability feels safe. But comfort and progress are not the same thing. And most individuals choose comfort without realizing they're choosing it. They think they're building a career, but what they're actually building is a very comfortable place to stay still. That's the pitfall.